Hey, Wrangler 4xe fans. I wanted to share some gas mileage results from a long road trip that I just took. Here's the thing about the Wrangler 4xe. It's a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, as we all know, and talking about gas mileage in a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle is very nuanced and very subjective and very case-centric. So some people in the Wrangler 4xe fans group are getting 30 miles a gallon, 40 miles a gallon. If you go to screen 5 and look at the overall average, that's the number I'm talking about. Screen 5 on the dash kind of records a long-term gas mileage. It is resettable, but that's the one a lot of people will look to and say, hey, I'm getting 32 miles a gallon. At one point, mine said 37 miles a gallon. And here's why that's a problematic number if you don't understand how the 4xe calculates miles per gallon on that screen. It calculates the fuel you're using, but it also calculates the miles you're traveling regardless of whether it's in hybrid mode or in electric mode. So when you start adding in a lot of electric miles to the math, the computer has no way of displaying your miles per kilowatt hour or anything like that. So it's figuring those miles you travel into your miles per gallon. So don't ever, they say you shouldn't compare. Comparison is the thief of joy. You should never compare your Wrangler 4xe to somebody else's Wrangler 4xe, because if they live 4 miles from work and they're literally driving 8 miles a day on electric and not using any gas, or in my case, I drive like 8 miles one way to work, I can literally go 3 or 4 days without ever running the gas engine. If you live 40 miles from work, you're never going to be able to do that, and therefore you're never going to be able to achieve the kind of numbers that somebody who lives closer to work can do. So that's one way we have to talk about miles per gallon as it's displayed on the vehicle. The other way to talk about miles per gallon is, what if I go out on a 2,000 mile road trip and never charge, or in my case 4,596 miles, I logged the whole thing, and what would the gas mileage look like? So let me explain how we did our trip. We were doing KOA camping cabins every night. We went from Ohio clear out to Colorado, up to Wyoming, and through South Dakota, and then back to Ohio. We charged at night using the level 1 charger off the cabin, but we never, I think I made it to 100% one night, and the rest we weren't there long enough to get the full 12 hours of charge. So we never left the day with 100% charge. It was 70%, 80%, whatever. So the number of electric miles was really low compared to what we could have done, but we did end up achieving a pretty high number of electric miles going down hills in Colorado and even Wyoming, to the tune of, I reset my B trip odometer before we left, and I was going to leave it the whole time and accidentally reset it like the second day. But I ended up with 3,964 miles on that B trip odometer. 470 miles of those are recorded as electric miles. And that's only because it is the electric miles we drove on battery alone, but it's also the miles that we were going downhill when the engine wasn't running. It counts those as well. So in a lot of those situations, we would charge 6, 7, 8, 10 miles on the way down a hill. We would then have some mileage at the end of that, and I was doing that using the ACC. I was setting the cruise control and allowing it to stay a distance behind the cars in front of me, so while the guy in front of me is burning his brakes, I'm charging. That's the beautiful thing of this vehicle, especially with the weight. You get all that gravity pulling and charging the vehicle. By the way, we did cross Overpass. I got my first Jeep Badge of Honor. We did Overpass in all electric mode, and on my way to Overpass, I was using eSave to hold the battery, and then I accidentally shut the vehicle off, turned it back on, forgot to put it back in eSave. So we were running a hybrid for a little bit. I put it back in the eSave and then did charge, so I would be mostly charged by the time I got to Overpass. And I think we started Overpass in like 85% battery, and we were able to complete all of Overpass on electric mode. The cool thing is, we got to the peak, we were at like 1 mile and 1%, and I thought, oh, we're not going to be able to do the whole thing in electric mode. But all the way down, we were using the max regen. I was using the brake, which of course is a blended braking system, which activates the same regen in the motor that max regen does. It's just at a set rate in max regen, whereas with the brake you can vary it. And by doing that all the way down the hill, I mean, this is miles. By doing that all the way down the second half of Ophir Pass, we stayed at that 1% 1 mile rate the entire time and finished Ophir Pass in electric. Right when we crossed the point where it goes back to being like a public road, the gas engine turned on. I mean, we were at that spot. So it's so all those electric miles helped our gas mileage, of course. So at the end of everything, at the end of the entire trip, like I said, I logged the whole thing, 21.2 miles to the gallon. And I gotta say, I don't think that's bad at all for a Wrangler, for a Jeep Wrangler with 3 adults in it and all of our hundreds of pounds of gear in the back. And that day of running e-save, which drove my gas mileage down like 15 miles a gallon that day. And running 80 miles an hour, some parts of Wyoming where the speed limit is 80, we were running 80, 85, and there is some sort of exponential curve from 70 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour. You could just hear it in the soft top. Had I had the trip to do over again, I would have done the hard top just for the aerodynamic reasons. But from 70 to 80, it changes drastically, and it uses a lot more gas exponentially than you would expect. It's not a linear curve there at all from 70 to 80. So I think getting 21.2 miles a gallon under all those circumstances, which is still 0.2 better than what the EPA rated it at, that speaks highly of the efficiency of the Wrangler 4xe. And like people say, you don't buy a Jeep for the gas mileage, but some of us are. And some of us waited for the 4xe for the decreased carbon emissions and the increased efficiency, since electric is so much more efficient than gas anyway. So 21.2 miles a gallon with hundreds of pounds of gear, 3 adults, running 80 mile an hour for a couple days, until I realized how much more gas that was using and backed it down to 70 and saw a significant increase in gas mileage at 70 mile an hour over 80 miles an hour. So just wanted to share that. If you get in a conversation with somebody where you're talking about gas mileage, under the pretty extreme conditions, I still achieved better than the EPA rating, let alone what it's capable of doing on a daily basis, which I feel is still around the 23, 24 mile to the gallon range. I will have to do some personal experiments at some point to really bear that out and see what that really looks like. But early experiments, I was seeing 23 and 24 miles a gallon, but that was before the engine was really broken in, which I feel it is officially well broken in now at 9,412 miles on the odometer, and at least 3,400 on that trip in all hybrid mode and running the gas engine. So there you go. There's the results of my massive road trip, and hope that does something to bring a smile to your face. Take care. Thanks for watching.